Now, who is this man? This is Jesus, the man who proclaimed that he was the Son of God. This is Jesus, the man who said that he was sent here to save us. This is Jesus, the prophesied Messiah. This is Jesus, the one that had lived a sinless life. This is Jesus, the man who had healed people, the man who had delivered people. This was Jesus. And he's dead. And now, our cross stands empty. For some, the empty cross has been reduced to a fashion statement, a trend, right? We get a jewelry piece that says it, or maybe a tattoo that has the cross. But the cross was so much more than that.
Yes.
It was so much more than the box that culture has placed it in. It is so much more than a cute piece of jewelry. It is so much more than a tattoo. It is a place of redemption. The cross was the place that represents the battle scene for our souls. And it is at the death on the cross where Jesus started his victory.
That's good. That's good.
3 things that the cross did. It addressed our problem. It paid our penalty. And it proved his love. It addressed our problem. Romans 3:23 says, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." Romans 3:10 says, "There is none that are righteous, no, not one." Jesus' death on the cross brought our sin into focus. It brought our sin, our problems, our issues into focus. Sin, what does that mean? It's missing the mark. Well, what's our mark? When we act inside of the will, the word, or the worship of God. Sin is when we miss that mark. Now, here we see Jesus, a perfect human being. Jesus, the man without sin. Here we see him die, one of the most gruesome, gory deaths that are reserved for some of the most gruesome and gory crimes. And they did it by vote. Crucify him, the crowd yelled. Nail him to this cross. It wasn't that he was just there in coincidence, but he was purposed to be there. Now, family, for all the questions that they had, sin rose up in their heart and they crucified the answer. For all the pain that they had, sin rose up and they crucified the healing. For all the problems, for all their suffering, sin rose up and they crucified the relief. Sin got him there. Sin. Now let me tell you something, family. When we look at this empty cross, we should be reminded about what sin can make us do. We should be reminded how far and how depraved we can go without Jesus. There are some people today that are more comfortable with different types of labels in society. When things that go wrong happen, people say that it's this disorder or it's this dysfunction or it's this problem or was this person was raised this way or didn't have this support or this psychiatric break, and those things are all good, but there's some things that can't be explained without using the words sin and evil and fallen and demonic and broken. Sin nailed him to the cross. And when we look at it, it should remind us of that. Look how far we can go as humanity without Jesus. We can crucify and kill the Messiah. That is what we're made of. That is our propensity, is sin. When we look at this cross, it reminds us of how far that we can go. Sin doesn't just remind me of our problem. It also reminds me of the penalty that came with the problem. Now you have to understand that this cross, it was an instrument of execution. And here's how it worked. You were tied or you were nailed to this cross, and you were left to hang there for several days. And you would die eventually from either exhaustion or asphyxiation. You'd either suffocate or you'd just be exhausted and you'd die. Gruesome penalty reserved for gruesome crimes. And the crime that Christ was ultimately being crucified for was the sin of you and I. Romans 6:23 says, for the wages or the cost of sin is death. And the custom of that day was death was very much a part of their worship. They had a lot of animal sacrifices, various animal sacrifices for their sin. So you would come into a place like this, and you would have a pathway of blood to get through. You'd walk into the place, and what would make you holy, what would make you righteous, what would make you okay to enter into the place where God rests, where God exists, is if something died to get you there.
That's right.
It's good.
So there would be bulls out there, and the priests would come, and they would slaughter them, and it would be goats, and it would be lambs, it would be doves, and all these animals that were seen as ceremoniously pure would be sacrificed. And let me tell you something, family. If that sounds gruesome or gory to you, it's the same today. When we see sin arise, we want a penalty to be paid. Let me help you understand. When someone gets our order wrong at the restaurant, where's my free food?
Make it plain, guys.
Okay?
Make it plain.
There's a penalty for that.
Make it plain.
Okay? When someone has bad customer service, I'll take my customer service, I'll pull it out the code, I'm done.
Talk about it.
Okay?
Talk about it.
Oh, Comcast, excuse me. Anyway.
Make it plain.
Throw that joke on the phone. Come on, play it. I don't want it no more. There's a penalty for that. You hurt somebody's family member, it's time to fight.
That's right.
Okay? We got people, I got something on me right now, come and get you something. Right? Bad politicians who want to get them out of the office. What am I saying? When we have sin that arises, there's penalties that we still demand of today. So, if we recognize that the wages of sin is death, that there was a penalty that was paid, why not the blood this morning? Why did we not walk through, and why did we not have people sacrificing animals as you came into the sanctuary? Well, Hebrews 9:12-14 illuminates this for us. It says, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood. He entered the most holy place once for all, having obtained eternal redemption. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of the heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctifies for the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God? The reason there was no blood is because his blood was shed. The death of the cross was the final sacrifice that you needed to be in communion with God.
That's good.
There is no sacrifice that can outdo that sacrifice. And when we look at the empty cross, we should say there was somebody that paid a penalty. There was somebody that did something about where I am. The last thing. When I look at the empty cross, it proves his love for me. Romans 5:8 tells us this, but God demonstrates his own love towards us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. John 15:13 says this, greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friends. It's one thing to know that there's a problem when we look at this cross. There's one thing to know there's a penalty when we look at this cross. But it's a whole other thing to know that someone did something about it. That Christ came and he paid the penalty. Now what I think is so exciting about this moment is that he did not do it begrudgingly. He did it out of his love for you. Out of his love for you. And let me explain to you what you is. He died not for my presentation self, not for the self that you let people see, not for the self that you dressed up here to come to church. He died for you. Not my work me. He didn't die for my credentials and my qualifications. He didn't die for the bravado that I have to be in certain boardrooms, in certain arenas, in certain meetings. He died for the weak, nasty, disgusting, unsure me. He died for me. And so many of us are trying to present a self that he loves. But no, he loves the part of you that nobody sees. He loves the part of you that's in late at night looking at things on your phone. He loves that part. He loves the part of you that has an attitude problem. He loves that part. He loves the part of you that can't get your eating under control. He loves that part. He loves you.
That's awesome.
He's died for you. He died for the real me. With my flaws, with my mistakes, with my shame, and with my shortcomings. He loved me enough to look at me and all that and say, yeah, he's still mine.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's still my boy. He don't look like much yet, but greater is the one in him.
It's good. That's good. Hallelujah.
You look at that empty cross, when everything else is failing, when everything else is shifting, when everything else is falling away, when you look at that empty cross, you look at the one thing that will forever be consistent, and that's the love that Jesus Christ has for you. Let me tell you, family, it may have been my sin that nailed him there, but it was his love that kept him there. The family, that's not where our story ends. I'm so excited that the story doesn't stop with his death on a Friday. Come on, y'all hear me in this place. But 3 days later, it wasn't just the cross that was empty anymore, but the grave got empty too. Hallelujah! He's risen from the grave.